Are we live?
Welcome to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host today, joined by Tim, the Freedom Variant O'Connor.
I'm here, Kevin. Still on the road, but man, I'm loving our broadcast schedule. I'm enjoying it. Yeah, like I could do this every night if I could make a living off of it. Which
I know.
I get it. It's tough. It's a tough market we're trying to break into here.
Yeah, no, tough to do that. And so I definitely don't have time to do every night. As fun as this is, we are only
Right.
recording 2 nights in a row because the producer is going to be off next week, so we owe him a show to run on the radio. Well, you know what? We'll just do 2 live shows in a row. Just knock them out. We'll talk about some timely stuff, some stuff that
Yeah.
maybe isn't getting a ton of coverage in the mainstream news, and then one thing that's going to get over covered in the mainstream news, like we're going to talk about Argentina. We might talk about Trump. I put Trump indictment in there. Maybe we'll talk about
We
that.
got to talk about it a little bit.
Yeah,
Sure,
and
sure.
then
We've avoided the subject for a little bit here.
yeah,
We've got to talk about his Georgia indictment.
another one. Number four. Um,
Yeah,
and
it's amazing.
yeah, and then maybe we'll get to some New York State issues. I put the National Guard in Rochester and Buffalo, but we could also talk about a few other things on the New York State level
Yeah,
as well.
a friend of the show kind of came up with one that I think we could at least talk about for a few minutes, right? Like that $40 million shovel ready project stuff. I don't know. We didn't really learn our lesson when Obama had shovel ready jobs ready to go, but Kathy
Oh
Hochul's going to be
man.
a better Obama. She's
So
going to be
I
better,
still
Kevin.
I still think about that Gary Johnson line where he said, my dogs created more shovel ready jobs than Obama.
And it's true. it's it's
Or
only
yeah,
$40 million. It's a drop in the bucket with our kind of largesse here in New York State. We literally we can afford to send millions of dollars to Puerto Rico. We can do this, Kevin. It's going to be good
who's even
for
gonna notice?
nobody's going to notice. Nobody, except
So
for as our taxes go increasingly higher and whatever, potholes go unpaved. Even though she promised $1 billion in pothole repair. Do you remember that? That was
I
classic.
do. I mean, we're gonna fix the potholes, and
Emergency.
instead
Some sort
we're
of
getting a
top plan.
yeah. So we're getting you know billions for or millions at least for the Buffalo Bills stadium. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm betting we're going to end up subsidizing the New York State rest stop somehow. They're going to be smaller and more crowded with fewer bathrooms, as you've already
And
seen.
they're mostly closed right now, just so everybody
Yeah,
knows. Like
yeah, they
they're
will
not on
reopen. You just won't be able. You'll just have to wait 15 minutes to pee. That's all.
beautiful news though. Like Chick-fil-A, formerly the bane of the entire state of New York and hated, much reviled by everyone, is now practically in every future rest stop along the New York
It's
State Thruway.
it's so
So
weird to me. Like it's such a
when the
weird
price is
partnership.
right,
Like
bro.
again, yeah, but like just because like I would think like New York State would virtue signal away from like Chick-fil-A, like just regardless of their food, like I would think they'd be like, no, we're gonna take a stand and protect our LGBTQ like friends by not doing Chick-fil-A, but also like it's closed Sundays. Like that's
Yeah.
the main thing that bugs me right now. It's like, man, why would you pick like
Yeah.
oftentimes I'm traveling home from Utica. Like sometimes I don't know when I'm gonna be able to get back because I'm visiting my parents in that area, and like
Right.
I gotta eat dinner and like some places there's nothing there. Okay, I can have the convenience store food. Hooray. My son is happy to eat like cheese bites and
Hooray.
crackers, but like sometimes I want like a real food, like a real meal.
Yeah. And Chick-fil-A is not there for you on Sundays. That's
It's
that
just, yeah, it's just
that
not
could be a
there.
real
Just pick,
issue, especially when you're traveling.
yeah, pick a place that's
Oh,
open.
well,
That's all.
that's
All
it.
right. Anyway, we will all right. Thank you, John, for open up
That's a
his
sacrifice,
weekend
bro.
beer bank. Don't
Yes.
disappoint me. We'll try not to. We
You're
got some
right.
good stuff here. So again, we're gonna talk about uh, an interesting like libertarian-ish, maybe populist from Argentina.
Yeah. Libertarian Jesus from Argentina. Everybody's very
God,
excited
he's
about
like
this.
trying to think. The first article I saw on him was about his hair, so we'll see.
Populism is populism, man. It's rampant in society, bro.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go
His
in.
hair is the most important issue.
Obviously. All right.
He's. Uh-oh.
Yeah, Tim, you kind of. It's all right. You froze on me slightly, and then you came back. You caught up. You did the quick talking thing.
Am I here?
It'll all smooth out in the audio afterwards.
I'm here, man. Can you hear me?
All right. Yeah, I can hear you. I'm about to start the
I'm
intro.
sure it will.
Now, an hour of clarity for exhausted people of our nation mired in toxic partisanship. Left versus right, us versus them. While we pay to keep our politicians fighting, how do we, the people, rise up and solve the great challenges of our time? We do it by embracing freedom and liberty. There may be no such thing as a free lunch, but this hour is as close as it gets. Welcome to A Free Solution.
All right, welcome to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson today, joined by Tim, the Freedom Marion O'Connor. Tim,
here,
are
Kevin.
you here?
Can you hear me?
Oh my goodness! Yeah, you're looking at your cell phone.
I am here.
Like the kids these days looking at their cell phones, just like them. You're distracted. Probably looking at the TikTok. That's I know how it goes, man. But anyway, we thank you for joining us here on WYSL and on our streaming platforms, a Free Solution Facebook page, Free Solution YouTube channel, the Kevin Wilson page, the Tim O'Connor page, all those places. Or if you're listening to us later on the podcast, appreciate y'all being here. Appreciate y'all listening today. And okay, we're at Tim left. Tim. All right, folks. John, Patty, thank you for listening. Right now, I don't know where Tim went. Tim bailed on me. He left the stream. So we're gonna try to get him back, and hopefully we're able to complete this show. And all right, so you guys out there who are listening, message Tim. There he is. There's Tim.
Oh, brother, I am sorry. Should we restart the show? Did you miss me?
I did miss you. So we're gonna have to start it over. So I'm gonna just say,
let's do it.
Let's give myself a pause.
I'm sorry, brother. My computer was running great, and then we started the show, and it just went totally sideways, man. I don't know.
No, we're gonna get conspiracies with this. Patty's saying they beamed them up, Kevin,
and they beamed me back. They let me go. They didn't keep me long.
Oh no! Let's throw that one back. All right, we're gonna go in 5, 4, 3, 2. Welcome to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson today, joined by Tim, the Freedom Marion O'Connor.
I'm here, Kevin, after some little bit of technical difficulty, but the show must always go on. Must always go on.
Yeah. That's right. We roll with it. We get it done. We're going to get a show. That's what's going to happen. All right. So appreciate all you folks joining us for the radio broadcast on WYSL. And of course, the folks, the very patient audience listening to us on the live stream on the YouTube channel, the Kevin Wilson page, the Tim O'Connor page, the Free Solution pages, all those places. And of course, the podcast. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening today. And so we got a bunch of great stuff to talk about today. We have I listed the topic as populism and around the world, but really it's we want to talk about what's happening in Argentina. It's interesting where like a country gets to the point where they start to elect someone who's like libertarian-ish, definitely an outsider. It's interesting how some of the news coverage has been around it. Like they call him like a far right populist, like a Trump supporter, that type of stuff. So we're gonna talk about that, and of course we'll talk about. We haven't talked about the Trump indictment stuff yet, so we're like, we should probably. We've had some time to digest it. Let's talk about it a little bit. The fourth Trump indictment, to be clear, the Georgia one, not all the others, which we have talked about. It's just a lot.
He's generated a lot of material for us. We've got to appreciate him for that. like
Sure
hours
does.
and hours.
What would the news media talk about without him? Like, let's just how would they fill the airwaves before? Like CNN, I don't even know. Like, what did they talk about other things before? Did CNN exist before Trump?
I don't think so, and they certainly made tons of bank off of them. Let's be honest. Like even Jon Stewart was made. He's like, CNN loves Trump. Like, sure, they make fun of him all the time, but they literally won't know what to do without him. And now, thankfully for Trump and for them, he's back in play as always. This guy.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's just generate more news. But anyway, let's talk about Argentina and what's going on there. We'll talk about this guy Javier Milei.
Miley Cyrus-y kind of vibe from his name, something like that.
Yeah, so he did well in the primary, so it's that's all it is. Is here's a guy who might stand a chance at getting elected to Argentina's president.
Yes. So the first thing I'd like to point out, Kevin, is Argentina's system at this stage in the game is they have a blanket primary, right? Where every party can kind of throw people into the ring and they can kind of, I think it's the top 3 or top 4 vote getters.
Yeah. It's like sort of like, because California does this too. They do something similar.
Okay.
Yeah. They have a top 2 system, which it always ends up being Democrats.
Imagine that,
Yeah. So whereas Argentina, their politics are a bit more diverse. Like they have legit Marxists who are running, plus like much more serious far right folks, plus centrist liberals, plus like this guy
who is a far right, radical right wing candidate, shakes up Argentina presidential race. Now, arguably by our standards, I don't know that he's radically right wing. He certainly is. I would put him a conservative morality kind of play, but some of his governing philosophies are actually kind of cute and kind of funny and kind of like, I say cute like that's dismissive, but Argentina's in a financial quagmire, Kevin. Probably everybody has some knowledge of the fact that they're experiencing 114% inflation rate per year. They have an incredibly irresponsible financial policy that basically relies on even simplistic or even more simplistic printing of money than the United States engages in. So there's a real issue in that country that's causing them real problems right now.
Yeah. So they're a mess. Like poverty's going up there. Like the economy's in bad shape. And so you get this guy coming in and he's suggesting a few radical things. Like on the economic front, it's like, let's just use the dollar, which is what a lot of countries do that. They're like, well, we'll just do that. And we'll just operate with this other system, which the dollar, for all of its problems and all the criticism libertarians in particular throw at it, is far more stable than like a lot of other places, a lot of other currencies, in part because like we are so economically successful that there's a lot of effing around they can do before we find out in the United States. Other countries do not have that luxury. They don't have the leeway to do that.
I had a little joke kind of planned, like maybe somebody should talk to him about how the dollar's going. But then I took a hard look at the actual numbers coming out of Argentina, and I knew that joke would land flat, at least with him, though it may appeal to other people. You know what I mean? Like the dollar's got some problems of its own, but
their version of the peso, just no, doing a lot worse. But yeah, interesting guy again. Extreme conditions tend to create extreme candidates, and in like South America and Central America, like you can get again legit fascists, legit like like far right folks, and then like far left communist folks. So you get like the Hugo Chavez type folks who will come out of the woodwork, and again, and you think of other situations in South America where they had like bad conditions and what ended, like we end up with like in Chile, like a communist government swinging over to the Pinochet government. And like there's a few of these countries where you get a level of instability. Like you see what real change looks like. And we only have like we have a tiny taste of that with like Trump and Bernie Sanders. Like that's just That's
Yes.
the lightweight version of what they experience in many other countries, like in South America and also in Europe. To be clear, too, there's also like these radical swings that happen in a lot of European countries as well.
Yeah, that's an absolute fact. Now, some of these things that this guy he would, if they had a Fed, he would abolish the Fed. Like he wants to abolish the central bank government sponsored kind of fiat money printing entity that exists in Argentina, and that I'm hoping is one of the reasons why he managed to purloin or garner 17 or 18% of the vote. Like he was the number one guy.
Higher. Yeah, I think he was actually at 30%.
Oh, was he really? Okay.
Yes, 30% of the total vote. United for Change, which is kind of the right wing party, is 28%. And then Union for Homeland, which I think is kind of like the center left party, is 27%. Hopefully, I'm not mixing those latter two up, but
We'll forgive you if you are, because I had the number completely wrong, and thank God you had it somewhat closer to right. I appreciate that.
yeah, I happen to have it right in front of me. So they go into like a runoff situation. And when when the guy won, he said, we're going to bring an end to this parasitic, corrupt, and useless political caste that exists in this country. So again,
oh my God, he should run in America. He would be my hero.
Populist vibes for sure. And he has some eccentric positions. Like in this AP article, they point out right in the beginning. So it's an AP article by Daniel Politi. They say like his eccentric positions are like that. It should be easier for people to get a handgun to defend themselves, which in the United States we're like, okay, cool, that's just everyday Republican and some Democrats and definitely libertarians. The more eccentric position is legalizing the organ trade.
Yeah, it's a little creepy. If you like when it first hits you, you're just kind of like, so I could sell like half my liver and maybe be set for life. Like, what kind of deal is he talking about there?
Well, I mean, I've like there are people that like the Cato Institute has some articles on it, like why you should be able to like sell your kidney, right? Like it's just
sure.
Like they're your body parts. You should be able to determine what you want to do with them. And as long as there's not coercion involved, as long as the people involved are consenting and understand what they're doing and understand the risks, you should be able to sell a kidney if you want to. Like it's because right now you can donate a kidney, but you can't sell it.
Right. And when we think about that here in the United States, there's something that people viscerally react to. But when I think it through, it's like you're kind of assuming risk, and down the road you could always buy a kidney from somebody else if we get this kind of organ trade going on and you start having problems with the one you got left. And certainly kidneys are something that you can survive with only one of, and certainly you can help keep somebody alive for a few bucks.
So if you want to do that and you want to make money off of it, like you should be able to do that. And I know, like I remember I went on the local NPR affiliate and talked about like. I didn't talk about like legalizing the organ trade. I talked about like challenge vaccines, right? Like, so back when like COVID was like first out, they're like, hey, should people be able to like take a vaccine test and then like get injected with COVID to see if it works? And I was like, for money and they consent to it? Yeah, absolutely. And like, oh, but that's like abusing the poor. You're going to take advantage of people who are just desperate for money. And I'm like, so they want to assume the risk. There are all sorts of ways that like poor people like endanger themselves for a dangerous job. And they make a lot of money off of it. I mean, like you think of things like line technicians, right? You get compensated really well to have a very dangerous job, right? Like that is what it is. You should be, if you want to be compensated for that and put your body on the line, great. If you want to be a miner and you know your body's going to be on the line, but you think the compensation's fair, do it. Like that is your choice. Like, and if it's not enough to risk your body for it, to risk your life and limb, then okay, then don't.
Yeah, and just so everybody knows, like that you can't knowingly. It's a violation of the Hippocratic Oath, and it's a violation of medical ethics. Like you can't be exposed to a dangerous virus to test a vaccine, and so that's always been one of the problems where there's a gray area as to whether you can make bold claims about the efficacy of a vaccine, right? Like that's a challenge, and so certainly I'm with you. If people, and they did actually managed to do a study of like 35 college students that all got paid to get exposed to the virus because they felt as though And I wish I had the details of it. I wish I could pull it
Yeah.
up really fast, but obviously I can't. But it did happen. So people did get paid for that challenge thing on some level. It wasn't very many, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's very controversial, and like people are like, "Well, you would legalize?" I was like, because this is when I was running for Congress. I was like, "Yeah, absolutely, 100%." But anyway,
I
so
love it.
like eccentric, yeah, I love telling liberals that they have them clutch their pearls, but
That's the best. That's the best.
yeah, because I was like, yeah, that was a wild interview because I talked about that, and then they're like, you don't think people should be required to wear masks everywhere? I was like, no, like if businesses want to do it, whatever. Like, but otherwise, no mask mandates. And this is like April of 2020, and they're like, what?
Oh my God,
So
yeah.
irresponsible. I got
funny.
people telling me I was like pro mask mandate. I was like, no, I was saying like that should be voluntary in like April.
Yeah, no, you were like, that was funny because there was definitely that conflation and confusion of the issue. You were like pro-vaccine. You thought the science fell into place. I respected your opinion. You were definitely not pro-mandate on anything. There isn't that libertarian conundrum of, hey, if your employer wants to require you to have the vaccine, your employer has the right to do that. And I was uncomfortable with that argument. And I've given it a lot of thought over time, and I'm still uncomfortable with it.
Yeah, no, I mean that's tough. That's tough. I know.
Yeah.
We've talked about that and pros and cons and where the mandates are coming from. But anyway, back to Argentina. We'll do back to talking about like this guy. So the interesting fellow. I heard other people talking about how he's like an anarchist or something. Did he describe himself that way?
No, they say that his economic strategy borders on anarcho-capitalism, right? Like he wants to revamp the prison system with private enterprise. He wants to revamp the infrastructure and support farming using private enterprise to build infrastructure that would benefit farmers. Now, a standard American person is going to get a little bit freaked out if we think about a farmer having to pay a toll on a road to get to market to sell his goods. But if that road doesn't exist right now and they have to pay a little bit of money, like you could get into this situation where all of a sudden this capitalist who built the road has way too much power over the common farmer. And so I'd like to hear your take on that. Like I'm kind of reflexively reacting like how I think a normal kind of centrist or liberal person might react.
Sorry, could you repeat it? Like I sort of lost you in there, and like
I
understand the question.
Yeah, I did get kind of squirrely with the question, so that's probably not your fault. I'm asking, like, so if they build infrastructure to support farming, and it's a private enterprise builds that infrastructure, presumptively the private enterprise is going to get to charge some amount of money for that infrastructure use, right?
Right.
Doesn't that put farmers in an untenable or scary position in regards to the power that a private enterprise has over infrastructure?
I mean, a government can have that same power over infrastructure too and abuse it. That's like ideally you have some level of competition where there's multiple ways to be able to get your goods to market and things like that. Like to me, like I'm generally in favor of like either privatized or semi-privatized like infrastructure where like it's not, if you have like a monopoly on something where like there's no other options available, that's when it gets kind of tricky. But when you have multiple options, like for instance, like the New York State Thruway, which like is owned by New York State, but sort of a separate corporation that has like some independent decision-making ability. Mm-hmm. If you really don't like the quality of the New York State Thruway and you don't want to pay for it, you have other options. You can take other routes. They're slower, but you can take them if you want to. Like to me, like that's the type of model that makes sense where you have like, I'm thinking of roads specifically, but
right.
Like, where you have like a limited access highway system, like, hey, you can pay a little bit more and do this. And some people are going to profit off of it. Like to me, that's okay. If they're going to maintain it, I have the choice. I can take, I can take a handful of routes to go visit my parents in Westmoreland, or I can take the Thruway. I usually pay to take the Thruway because it's quicker. But if I don't like it, or for whatever reason, I feel like it's too much, or there's an accident or something, I have other routes. I can do something else. But I don't, in and of itself, have any issue with like private companies owning infrastructure. It's just that if you make it so that either alternatives aren't possible because of either natural reasons, like there's no other like routes available, or crony capitalist reasons, as in no one else will get a permit to do this thing,
Right. That's the part that scares me, right? That all of a sudden we're in this weird monopoly granted by the government to a private enterprise, which no longer is private, really, right? Like if they're kind of the only show in town, and oh wait, that's the U.S. economy. Never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, like, and I know people make that comparison with things like Facebook, and like that to me like isn't a valid comparison because
right,
you know, there are actual other alternatives, and I don't have to be on Facebook. You know, in the same way, like if you are living somewhere and there's only one road to get to like a main artery and no one else does it, like, yeah, I could get why. Like as much as libertarians like to joke about fully privatizing roads and everything, like
sure,
there's free rider problems, and then there's like a monopoly on space problem that you end up having.
I get
anyway, yeah,
that was actually a pretty good answer, and that kind of that's where I went down that road. Like it's a big leap, even for a guy that professes to be a libertarian, to just be like, hey, we should privatize the roads, especially in a developing country like Argentina, who's had a horrible economic system. They're not taking advantage of what their natural resources are as far as farming and lumber and things of that nature. So to access those systems better, they need more infrastructure. And so I was like, all right, I could see where that would be a little bit scary for people.
And in the early United States, that's a lot of how it happened too. Like the Pennsylvania Turnpike was originally a private company that just like built the road because like no one else was doing it. Governments weren't really like in the business of building like major like thoroughfares at the time. And so this private company is like, hey, we'll do this. We'll get permission. We'll get cut through the land. We'll do that. You know, until governments got more sophisticated and had the resources to be able to build roads or canal systems,
right.
People had to figure it out on their own. And sometimes like the alternative of having a private company develop this and decide what resources are appropriate to put into a road, you know, is good. Because sometimes governments will also put way too many resources in the roads, and you'll have this like pristine highway that no one uses. And there's several of those that exist too.
Sure.
You know, okay, it's free, it's really nicely maintained, but like no one drives on it. Like that's not great. And listen, it's a mixed bag. There are different types of good managers, bad managers. Like there's a private road in the city of Rochester that I like ride my bike on every day. It is the worst maintained road I have ever seen. It is terrible.
What a disappointment that must be for you.
Yeah, I know. And I'm like, a private road and you're not taking care of it. But and the city put a sign on that road too that said private road because so many people kept calling and complaining about how the road stunk. And they're like, it's not ours.
We didn't do it.
I ride my bike down that road and
yeah, so he's also, I know we're going to kind of come up against time, but there's a couple things I don't really like. He wants to go into like the prison building system. He's got a zero tolerance for crime. That's where we kind of, as a libertarian, I have zero tolerance for infractions on my property and zero tolerance for people that harm me and mine. But like, you know, people hurting themselves, criminalizing things. And we run the risk of criminalizing things when we start building a prison system, like upgrading a prison system.
Right. Yeah. It's, we've seen some of the pitfalls of that in the United States. He is against the war on drugs, though. So that's interesting.
Well, good for him. Yeah.
But we are at time, though. So we'll continue this conversation during the break, and then we'll move on. All right. Thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution on WYSL. We're going to be back in just a few minutes. Talk to you soon. All right, yeah, I looked at it, I was like, oh no, we're like coming up on time.
Yeah, no, sorry about that beginning, man. I know that's so like it's so like flop sweat starts, you know, it's just like it's horrible. And everything was going great. Our conversation was great. My video graphics were great. Everything was moving right. We hit the go live. Actually, we had the conversation live, and then we hit the video, and the video didn't play. And then all of a sudden you're talking and you're like, you can hear me. And the video starts playing then. And so I'm going to smash this stupid HP product. You guys, like, it's literally called a stream computer. Like, I can't even, like, come on, man. You got to do better than that. You can't, like, that's false advertising. I'm assuming for emotional damage here.
I got my nice, like, 4-year-old Lenovo here that's pretty solid.
That seems to be, it works good, man. Delivers good sound.
Our guy Andrew Hollister, sponsor of this program, actual legit sponsor of this program with Simple Tech. He recommended that to me. So
Bulletproof. I don't even know how old my computer is. It's like 10 years old. It's got 2 screens. I changed the hard drive. I upgraded. Like there was a while where I was playing like Fortnite and stuff. So I upgraded the microprocessor. It was very like everything in it was doable. You know what I mean? And now it's like a really solid computer. It's almost flawless. I put a solid state drive in it. It was all fun and very inexpensive. And now it's kind of like this mega computer.
yeah.
But you know, like I don't know if it probably my son would make fun of me because it's like, Dad, that's like that's old tech. You couldn't even play Fortnite now with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand. But so I did want to round out the conversation with the guy from Argentina, Javier. Like, so like he is interesting because like I've seen a bunch of people like fighting about like libertarians either want to claim him or disown him, like not real libertarian. Like, all right, like politics in other countries are different, you know. And he has some interesting things. Again, the gun rights thing, interesting, novel for that country. And you know, like on social issues, like he's kind of a mixed bag, right? Like he's kind of like, I don't have a problem with gay marriage, I don't have a problem with transgender rights. I want people said like, oh, he's anti-trans, but so far I've kind of just seen like, well, he doesn't support the government funding like any like gender affirming care, which like okay, that's you know,
pretty good. He wants to privatize health insurance because I guess Argentina has a like universal health care, and he wants to privatize it and pay the premiums with the money that they're going to save by getting rid of
good luck.
I guess, yeah, I know none of that's going to work.
So yeah, it's like we've kind of tried that a little bit in the U.S. and somehow we have like the bureaucracy of the socialist system with the expense of like the unsubsidized system.
The worst parts of the unsubsidized system. We really do. And there's so many things that if we developed a competitive market, so many like knee surgeries, hip surgeries, if we developed a competitive market, the prices for these things would drop drastically because there are people that are so good at it and they're so efficient. Like, honestly, right now I'm very ecstatic with what's going on with my wife. You know, like the everything's going very well right now. And it was just so impressive to go from a big, you know, systemized hospital center to this small private clinic and just to get things done in form and fashion. It was just a wonderful experience, you know. Yeah. And she's healing up great. So
I don't know. I've just switched into an even bigger system because I got nice new health insurance that requires me to go to a certain hospital, and it took me so like that. I finally had my appointment. I made this appointment in November. I had it in August. August 11th was my actual doctor's appointment. Now, like the customer service there is wonderful. Like when I got there, everyone's great. You know. I get it. Doctor, like I got scheduled for other appointments for like stuff that I've been like putting off, but like it's like, man, it took me 9 months to go see a doctor. And I don't know if that's better or worse than the other place I go to where I can get in right away when I have something go wrong, but I have never, ever met the doctor assigned to me. Like I'll get a letter every 6 months in the mail, like your doctor has left. You now have Dr. So-and-so. Like I don't know 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a sad state of affairs, the doctoring system in New York State. We don't allow enough doctors in every year. We have a complicated certificate of need situation. We've had shows about it. We could always do another show about it. There's a few different workarounds. Some of the workarounds are kind of expensive, you know, but also you get incredible service, you know, like I had my friend, Dr. Mark, on the show a couple of times. He's a great guy. I wouldn't even call it expensive. It's just, you know, it's different and it's more money out of your pocket. Your health insurance isn't going to get involved in paying for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
all right. So we should go back in a minute. You know, I don't know if we're going to talk about this today or at least not next, but maybe we can talk about it eventually. Vince on YouTube says, Tim, you need to talk about Cooperstown mass police exodus.
Vince is scooping me on something. I'm up to speed on the possible potential 50% tax increase for 2024. I am not up to speed on the Cooperstown mass police exit, but now that I'm talking about it, I know somebody's going to get me up to speed. So I'm looking forward to that.
So yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge your comment because don't see too many comments from Vince, so just want to give a shout out. Like, and I see I want to say hi to Shelly too. Hey Shelly.
Oh, hey Shelly. So was
Shelly,
Tim.
Patty,
Tim was
John.
late too.
Yeah. So thanks all for listening tonight. All right, we're gonna go back in 3. Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host today, joined by Tim, the Freedom Bearing O'Connor.
Good news, Kevin. Our compassionate, kind, and concerned governor is going to be handing out the big bucks for shovel-ready jobs. She's there, man.
All right, man.
What could possibly go wrong?
Great. Tell us about it.
Okay, so basically, sometime this week, Governor Kathy Hochul announced that $39.6 million has been awarded for at least 7 locations under the focused attraction of shovel-ready tracks, the New York FAST grant. Man,
I was about to say, oh my God, I was doing the acronym in my head. What is it?
FAST New York Grant Program. They first announced it in February of 2022, and the program is designed to prepare and develop sites across the New York State to jumpstart New York State's shovel readiness and increase its attractiveness to large employers. Guys, what she's saying is she's going to find some land to give to her rich buddies who are donors to her campaign. I'm just reading in between the lines, right? Big donors who can like what was the one in Syracuse, that Sun Microchip? Like they made a big, huge campaign donation. They promised like 50,000 jobs. Yeah, Sun Micron or Micron. And they promised like, I don't know, 5,000 jobs. Then like 2 days after the election when she won, they're like, well, maybe it's only going to be like 500 jobs. I mean, check the news. I'm exaggerating a little bit for effect, but it's basically some sort of system like that. So this is how New York State plans on, I want to say, like, keeping people in hopes of getting a really good job someday. So it's a
listen. So I'll say this, like, I generally am against this program, but I do know people who have like directly benefited from this. So like the people who are like involved in this, like they got the jobs at like the, the high-tech manufacturing firms. They're excited about it. They're making good money with it. Like, so like those folks and their families, they're like, they see this and they're like, well, this subsidy worked out for us. And they tell their friends, and that like people assume that the impact is overwhelmingly positive. And that's how you do it. You have your nice ribbon cutting, you do your thing, you say like, this is going to create so many jobs. And like, you hear vaguely that there's going to be a bunch of jobs, and then you never really follow up most of the time. Right. Like we have documented so many failures of New York State subsidy programs where they dumped tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in some of these projects and some of these sites, and then nothing has come of it. And like Rochester, like infamous for that, for like photonics, like it is like a running joke in this city almost, where like there are some photonics jobs that did happen, but they just way overpromised on the number of jobs and the timeline of those jobs in this area. And the same thing's going to happen with these for the people involved, like in the sites going up and the new like high tech like microchip manufacturing firms that are happening. Like it seems really exciting. It's just that you can't help but wonder, could we have done this without the hundreds of millions of dollars in subsidies? Like, was there a way to do this?
Like if we had lowered regulations and lowered taxes, the economy in upstate New York would already be vibrant, and we wouldn't be needing to use big, huge sums of money doled out by the government to attract big business. They'd already be here because these big businesses already built plants and things like that other places. Like they're not giving it to Kevin and Tim because Kevin and Tim have a great idea for laptops. They're giving it to Sun Microsystems. They're giving it to Elon Musk, guys. Like that's who they're giving this money to.
Like, actually, Elon Musk too.
Yeah, like no, literally Elon Musk. Like Elon Musk has ate New York State's lunch, man. Like they bought him lunch, they bought him dinner, and they keep right on and going. And so this is a real phenomenon that people seem to not want to accept, that overall it's a system of bribery. They're taking our money, they're raising our taxes, and sure, a few of your friends end up with great jobs. That would be great. But if we change the trajectory that we're on, it would probably be easier. It would probably be more fun, and everybody would be making more money. and taxes would be lower, man.
Yeah,
Like,
and
it's a big deal.
I shared the government propaganda link on this too. If you guys want to see like what's coming out of New York State on this program. So of course this is going to be like, hey, we we gave so many millions of dollars of subsidies here to develop job ready sites so that we can have high-tech manufacturing firms around, like, so like Rochester area is getting one for like agricultural manufacturing in Webster, right? Like, which is
I see it right here. $20 million to the County of Monroe IDA, which has its own acronym, COMIDA.
COMIDA,
yeah. The site at 1900 Tiber Road in Webster is being developed to attract agribusiness. It's like, is that like farms? What is that? Because we already have farms. Like, can we just give the money to farmers?
So it's that stuff, and like they want to do. I hopefully I'm not mixing it up with another project, but I think that's the one associated with like they want to do like indoor like greenhouse type of stuff for like year round, like
great
type of stuff.
Yeah, and they're going to burn fossil fuels to keep that stuff warm in the winter. Or are they going to build a nuclear power plant?
They do have a nuclear power plant there, actually.
Sweet.
Like it's a thing like that. Actually, they actually are like nuclear powered in that spot.
Kind of like that. Then I kind of like it. I mean, I don't like the $20 million, but I like having nuclear power and a massive end user of electric. And hopefully they're really successful. Now, I wish that we didn't pay them $20 million to get it done.
Nice. Now, like I remember, like it's so funny. Like I remember interviewing candidates for Libertarian Party endorsements, and like talking to these folks about like at the county ledge level, right? Because county ledge kind of controls like what COMIDA does a little bit, right? Like obviously COMIDA gets stuff from New York State, and there's IDA regulations that exist in the state level, but it's a county level organization. And like, well, do you support this type of thing? And almost all of them, Republican, Democrat, like even if you're like, well, I don't like it, but it's the only way to get jobs here because of the environment that we have. It is the only way we can grow our economy and get jobs, and we need to fight every way we can to get new jobs in this county, and this is the way to do it. There's no other alternative unless we can change the state level. And everyone has that like mentality where like this is the only way. Like we've got to, New York State just makes it too difficult. We've got to subsidize people, otherwise no one's going to come here.
We've got to kiss big business butt to get them here, and that means give them money. Taxpayer money has to be given to big business, and Republicans are just as bad as Democrats in New York State. They don't even pretend anymore. There's some sort of promise of being more fiscally responsible, but they're not. Like, let's be honest, they're not. It's just,
I mean, I sort of get it. Like they're not totally wrong. It's just that like I would like them to do something about it. Like, okay, you're right. You have acknowledged the problem in saying that this is a necessity because of the environment that we're in. How do we fix the environment that we're in so that this isn't a necessity? So we aren't like having a race to the bottom, either among counties or among states for jobs. Like remember like the great Amazon subsidy race that we did a few years ago, where like every state was promising so much money.
Oh my God, we were bidding our workers' souls for Amazon to come to our places. Kevin, I just got to tell you, you're never going to get elected with attitudes like that, son. No, you got to step it up. We got to make some promises here, kid. We got to do some people some favors.
I think I'm saying too many things like this to get elected. I'm just gonna have to be entertaining on the radio. That's all I can
bro.
Do. I'll settle for that. But no, like I don't know. It's an interesting thing in terms of why we feel like we have to subsidize and whether or not we can like move away from that system. Because I get the feeling that like a lot of people like, other than like the businesses themselves, like they don't like it, but they feel like that's the only way and that's the way to do things. So like there needs to be like a paradigm shift on the thinking around like how do we make sure businesses can thrive in these areas, and is it necessary even for high-tech businesses? Because there's a whole like CHIPS Act thing where like was it necessary on the federal level, on the state level, on any level to throw huge chunks of money to ensure that we have domestically manufactured microchips? And I know
for sure you asked that question and the answer would be yes, Kevin. Hello, that's what we have to do. Like that's what the average politician is going to come back with. Period. Yes, it was necessary. See, and it worked. We have 1,700 new jobs in New York State right now.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Right. How many hundreds of thousands of that is that per job? Like, again,
we don't need calculations like that, bro.
I know that's negative thinking, right? Like, just think about the jobs.
Yeah,
we created jobs.
Yeah, we created jobs with taxpayer money and imaginary taxpayer money and devalued taxpayer money, and we're borrowing taxpayer money from future taxpayers and from the potential taxpayers that are coming in for these jobs.
Like, here's the funny shuffling that goes on with some of that stuff too. Like, because like the county will be like, well, yeah, like we are paying $20 million for this, but also it's not really you guys paying for the money, it's the state paying for it. And then the state will say, well, yeah, no, like it's not really us paying, $140 million. It's actually, or $40 million. It's actually the federal government because we're getting it from this program. So it's really costing you nothing. I'm like, well,
it's free
for it. And then the federal government says like, well, you're not really paying for it. We just issued these bonds. We just increased the debt a little bit. In the grand scheme of things, like $40 million, it doesn't really even matter. And so we just kind of shuffle it down the road. And you'll see like local, like I'll see the city do that all the time where they're like, well, yeah, it's just the state's paying for it. I'm like, no, but I'm still paying for it. We're still, guys, like that money still comes from us, right? Like I know like your budget line is fine, but like we still pay for it.
No, the political class is completely disconnected from that reality. Okay, it doesn't matter which team they're on. The only team that is somewhat connected to that reality is the libertarian team. And we're so diverse and so disjointed, perhaps perhaps that's the nicest way to say it. That it's going to be a challenge to convince more people to understand the solid principles of economics, and what's really going on. That through devaluation, inflation, taxation, and theft, that we're not actually coming out ahead on this game. When we throw cars into the ocean, when BlackRock, owns everything. I got an interesting tie into the later story that you're going to talk about too about BlackRock. You're going to love it.
Oh, well, interesting. I mean, if you want to jump into it, you already mentioned it. If you want to jump into it now, you can.
Well, you were
3 minutes.
Okay, so one thing that you wanted to talk about, I believe, Kevin, was the fact that the National Guard is getting called up to Monroe County, right?
Yeah.
And that's to aid and assist with the ongoing asylum-seeking refugees, right?
Yep, that's it.
And at the heart of this whole thing is a company called DocGo, which was an early provider of, I want to say, COVID assistance, like mobile-ready COVID units where they would get vaccines out to people and just set up and stuff like that. And so they quickly pivoted in 2022 from COVID response to they want to help asylum seekers, and they were awarded a no bid contract to provide support for asylum seekers. Now, I think when we come back from break, I think you want to talk a little bit about what the National Guard implications are and what might be going on with that. But just guess who the top two owners of DocGo are?
Who are they? Because I've seen people like upset about DACA, but I honestly haven't looked into as much as I should.
It's Vanguard and BlackRock. I'm not even kidding. Like, I'm not making this up. The top two shareholders in DocGo, Vanguard and BlackRock. They are literally everywhere, man. Everywhere.
That's called savvy investing, Tim.
It is, especially when you can like lock up a no bid contract to help migrants across, to help asylum-seeking migrants, which. Guys, like the services that they get are not that great, and so DocGo's on the hot seat here.
Yeah, there's been a handful of articles where they've been kind of accused of providing subpar services at best, and
but great returns for their investors, Kevin. And that's the important thing.
Yeah, they've been accused of mistreatment. Again, I'm not. It's an accusation. I'm not gonna dig into the validity of that. But yeah, that's definitely a thing that is worth some extra scrutiny. I think when you have a no bid contract for New York City and and to getting accused of mistreating the very people they're supposed to be helping. That's worth a closer look for sure. And hopefully it's not true. Hopefully everything's on the up and up and everything's great. But
look, mistakes can happen, right? Mistakes can happen, and that's fine. And we can again point our angry finger at a broken system, which the immigration system is, that necessitates asylum seekers and necessitates problems within the welfare structure that we already offer, that we're already kind of failing on. And I get the juxtapositions that upset people about it. So
yeah, for sure. But all right, we're gonna have to have a break. Thanks again for joining us here on WYSL for a free solution, and of course all the live streams as well. We're gonna be back in just a few minutes. Talk to you soon.
All right. Well, that was because when I clicked on a link and I'm checking it out, and I'm like, who owns it? And it's like Vanguard, BlackRock, and some Hollister or Holster Holdings, which is another mega investment firm.
Yeah. Now
they up their they up their ESG score by like 100 points when they invest in companies like that.
Does it work that way? Are they because they're helping migrants? I
don't know, man. I listen to Glenn Beck every once in a while. I'm just saying that ESG stuff. Honestly, we should do a show about ESG and our understandings of it, because mine is like, holy cow, this is like the strong arm of the government influencing every pervasive. Like, I want to take my money out of my retirement account because they just made a big deal out of it. I want to change retirement accounts because they just made a big deal about how green they're going and how ESG they're working on their ESG score. And I'm like, I think that's going to cost me like investment returns. I got a feeling.
Tim, you work for a solar company.
I should have a pretty high ESG score myself, personally.
Yeah, you Tim, like, great investment.
Yeah.
But no, it's I'm going to take the usual like squish position on that. I was like, it could be good, but sure. Often it's the way it's done, it ends up being more about virtue signaling than anything useful, right? Like,
right.
It's like it's neither useful for making money, nor is it useful for actually advancing, like, green energy, like something substantial, right? Like, it usually doesn't even do that either. It's just, and a lot of companies are starting to be like, all right, we're done virtue signaling. We're done. We're done. We're gonna go back to making money because that's what's really important. And we were hoping that this made us a bunch of money, and it didn't do it as much as we wanted. So
now, see you later, suckers.
Yeah. But I don't know. Yeah, maybe we'll do a whole show on that.
Sure.
But so we'll go back in just a minute. I guess we'll talk about a little bit about what's going on in Buffalo and Rochester with the National Guard, and then maybe we'll spend like 5 minutes on the Trump thing.
Yeah, we got to do the Trump indictment for sure. We gotta just a little bit about it because it's terrifying.
All right, terrifying. That is. You can take that any way you want. Terrifying, folks. I know. Terrifying. We'll see.
Leave it open-ended.
What Tim means by that.
Hang in there till the end, folks. We're going to talk about Trump and the Georgia indictment.
That's right. All right. So we're going to go back in about 10 seconds. Love the comments. Appreciate all y'all. Going to go back in. Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today, joined by Tim, the Freedombarian O'Connor.
I'm here, Kevin. And yeah, I just want to compliment your voice. It's an excellent voice for radio.
Oh, good. Don't have the face for TV, so this is what I got to do.
I'm in the same boat.
And yeah, here we are streaming on YouTube for some reason, but
that's true. We're doing it.
But anyway, we want to talk about a little bit of a local issue, and then maybe we'll talk about the Trump stuff as soon as we get to it. We're going to talk about the National Guard being called out in Rochester and Buffalo. And it's kind of a weird thing, like how it ended up happening is that there were two migrants who were bus up from New York City among like a group of others to Erie County, and they were accused of sexual assault. And the initial thing coming out from Adam Bello in Monroe County, and that's what I'm paying more attention to than the Erie County guy, it was like, well, we got to do this because of like the criminal situation. And then they kind of pivoted to like, we just need help with the logistics of managing like food distribution and legal aid and stuff like that. But I don't know. It kind of ended up being like a strange situation. A bunch of people got like, really amped up about it because like, well, what do we really need the National Guard to? Like, aren't there already like resources in place to do this, nonprofits in place to do this sort of thing? Like, how much is this costing like the states to do this? And does it like create more fear around this situation than is really like necessary?
Arguably, right? I think that there is an intense reaction going on still to the migrant crisis. Okay, like, and I think it's fair to call it something of a crisis because certainly,
Yeah, sure.
People are getting bussed all over this, especially New York State, a couple other states. Certainly, Texas's their social services systems are getting overrun, and so there is something of a crisis going on now. I even when I read the article, I could feel this confusion about why the National Guard was called up, and certainly that the politicians seem to pivot away from it being an issue of safety to an issue of serving the migrant community because regardless, like they know they have an obligation to do it. They also are incentivized financially to do it. And so they knew that they kind of had to kind of like change their deal midstream. So and look, check it out. In Monroe County, York County, 77 migrants, which guys, like you actually have a pretty sizable county. That's a blip on the radar. That's almost nothing. Okay. But even better, I think there's only like 40 left. Like
30 of them were like, we're not even getting off the bus. Like, no,
we hate
like,
this place. This is no good. We're out of here.
Yeah, I know. Some people have that reaction to Rochester, right? It's
I know, I get it.
Taste. It's
no, I get it.
Yeah, Tim's like, when he came to through the area, he's like, man, I'm glad I don't live here.
I was like south of Rochester too. I didn't even get into Rochester proper, bro.
Next time you go through the area, we'll take you to a brewery in the city.
All right, that's cool though. I'm okay. Like I'm a rural dude, but I have spent time in New York City. I did kind of go to an urban college. Like I don't mind city atmospheres. I went to Boston.
I live in North Whitten Village. It's like a suburb.
Oh, okay. All right. So that's cool.
It looks like a village like in your area too. Like I don't know.
Oh, okay.
It's just the kind of 2-story houses everywhere. That's what it is.
Yeah, little pink houses for you and me.
Yeah, that's just I bunch of little houses, but I can walk to a bar and a bowling alley and a distillery.
Man, that would be cool if we had that in upstate New York. Holy cow! And in my area, there's no walk into a bar. Like I could walk to a bar from my hotel, like easy, within a block or two. But like the closest bar to my house is probably 10 miles away, 5 miles away, something like that.
I think I can walk to 6 breweries from my house, like within like a mile and a half.
So you have services for migrants already, Kevin.
Yeah, no, is it? If they want breweries, like, gosh, we have so many breweries. Like, it's fine. We got a ton of those, but yeah, like 30 of them they still got here. They must not. No one must have told them about the breweries.
No.
And so they're just like, no, we're gonna go back to New York City where they have better breweries. That must be the case.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I don't know. I can't imagine what happened. There is some allegations that the migrants are being misled as to what kind of situations they're being taken into. There are some allegations.
Going back, and like some of them were misled about like going to New York City too. Like the not so nice folks down in Texas sometimes shipping them up. There's the whole Martha Vineyards one, but they were doing that with like New York City. They were kind of promising like maybe stuff that wasn't exactly true, and a few of them, you can't blame them, right? They're like, all right, we came here. We think we followed the process the way we understood it. Came here, said that we're seeking asylum and that we would get help. And then they're getting moved every which way. Now you end up like in Rochester of all places. They're like, no, what?
You're out. We're out. So hopefully this situation straightens out. And I think that what was there, an allegation in Erie County that 2 migrants committed sexual assaults?
And again, so that's what it was, and
I hope that's not the case.
Yeah, hopefully it's not true, but like it is a thing that happened. Like the thing is that I don't want to like write it off. Like it is a serious thing. Law enforcement should deal with those folks, and like they should either get deported or jailed or whatever, right? But like,
depending on the level of their sexual assault, they got to go.
Yeah, if they actually did it and they're found guilty, etc. But to me, yeah, there's going to be criminals among people who like come here in the same way that there are criminals among people who like live here and have their entire life, and that's how I see it. And it's unfortunate that happened, and I think it's a bit overkill to have the National Guard, because again, their initial statement is that they kind of implied that they were doing it because of the incident in Erie County. And they specifically said after observing recent occurrences in other counties hosting asylees. So,
right.
I think that kind of blows it out of proportion. Again, most people are just they're here. A lot of them are here with their families too. Like specifically the ones in Monroe County, there's a lot of families.
Right.
They're just trying to figure it out and get a better life and start school, and
kind of just like what we're all doing, man.
Yeah.
So
that's how it is. But man, we totally are running out of time to talk about Trump thing. We got like 3 minutes.
All right. Well, that's probably enough.
You can give the
time.
teaser. Maybe if we need to talk more about it, we'll talk about it in the bonus section of the show. So if you're listening on WYSL, you're just going to have to subscribe to the podcast to hear that extra stuff.
And it's important because Trump is an icon, regardless of whether you like him or love him or hate him. It doesn't matter. But here we're coming to an issue where he's being indicted for a RICO crime where all the acts in and of themselves don't have to be crimes, but a good jury and the proper prosecution can turn it into an actual conspiracy case. And I'm really, as you might know, Kevin, I'm not comfortable with that. I don't like it. Like there was him kind of talking to the governor of Georgia saying, "Hey, find me votes." That's not even really mentioned in this yet,
No, I mean that's definitely part of it, though. Is it?
Yeah, though?
Yeah.
They're talking about tweets. Like the Federalist is like, Trump's been indicted for telling people to watch TV.
The Federalist is saying that. Like,
yeah.
Do you think the Federalist is giving like fair full coverage to this?
I don't know. I do feel this. I've always thought that like the entire government should be indicted under RICO statutes if RICO statutes mean anything. So why wasn't Bill Clinton indicted for the cattle futures fraud that he committed? Why wasn't Hillary indicted for all of the frauds that the Haitian refugee relief fund that they basically pillaged and delivered no money for? Like,
yeah.
So
the thing is, like, politicians do get away with a lot of stuff, right? Like,
they do,
and like I think we talked about this, like. If Donald Trump was such a jerk about stuff, he probably would have got like again like with the documents thing where he's like being recorded talking about how it's illegal to like show this document to people. Like if he wasn't such a bonehead about it, like he probably would get away with a lot more. And same with some of this stuff. Like he was just so ham-fisted and like, yes, we understand that we didn't win, but like, can you find ways that we could have won? After it was like over with, like that's kind of like the crux of this is like
perhaps voter fraud played a role.
Yeah,
perhaps ballot fraud played a role.
Some of the implied threats, like going well beyond like the lawsuit things, like that's sort of what it is. But we are out of time for the show, so if we want to continue the discussion, we'll have to be in the podcast. Thanks again, WYSL audience, for joining us. Have to let you go. Have a great night, folks. Take care.
That Trump, he's always so much fun.
So he gives us stuff to talk about. That's for sure. No, but it's to me like this was always the most legit one. Like the New York City, like the New York City indictment. Like that one was a joke. That was dumb.
It was dumb. It's bad. Like
that one was bad. The document one I think is a little bit more legit. Just because again he's on tape talking.
Sure, arguably, right? Like there's something there that at the very least he should be roundly made fun of and face some sort of slap on the wrist for that, right?
The level of consequences required for that, like maybe we can debate that, but like, did he do something that was like illegal and dumb and should have known that there was going to be consequences? Yeah, yes. Like he should have known that.
And hilarious and funny and in character for Donald Trump. Like, hey, check this out. Like, I got the goods on Millie or Miley. I told him I didn't want to invade Cuba, and he drew up a battle plan, and here it is. It's like, oh my God, dude.
All right, we're on to it. Like, what a jackass sometimes. Just like
Just
seriously,
saying.
like, God, just
I
if he
get
could,
it, man.
if he
He's
could
a
not
riot.
do that, like he would save himself so much trouble.
He would. He would.
And where I think they're actually going to get him in this stuff, because again, there's in this case in particular, there's a good Cato article about this where it's like how Trump is going to botch this is that he is probably going to perjure himself. Like he's going to, and like
Right. It's a
say
process
something like,
crime, though. Nobody gets prosecuted for perjury except for Donald Trump.
Well, no, like there's a level of like perjury that I think is appropriate to like prosecute people for, right? Like because there's some stuff where like your stories are inconsistent and they're like, hey, we're gonna charge you with lying to the FBI because like you said you wore a red shirt but you were wearing a blue shirt. Like that stuff is dumb and it's just used to like hurt people, right? Like it's just to get leverage over them. That's the whole thing. That Donald Trump like may end up lying because like he doesn't want to look bad or doesn't want to look foolish, or he's going to misrepresent something to his lawyers and his lawyer. Because that's what he did with like, again, the papers down in Florida too, is he like misrepresented like the situation to his lawyers and put his lawyers in a difficult position. And now like you have an actual like issue.
Sure. Like still granting that there's an accurate analysis to what you're saying. I'm telling you right now, Donald Trump is the most persecuted man in the planet right now, and that some of it he doesn't deserve. And certainly, like when you look at what they did in New York, that stretches the bounds of credulity to me. It's just like kind of like here, we're going to fill in the blanks later. Let's make sure we get him charged. A lot of this could be arguably like looks like pre-election interference. Like, let's make sure we can't let this guy out on the campaign trail. And like, I don't know,
man, he's just getting more popular, like, which is I hate, like, because
honestly,
I'm like,
that's
man,
the worst part about it.
I mean, well, at least among like certain segments of Republican voters, like, because again, they take that same tack that you're taking. It's like, well, like he's being persecuted and they're going after him, and like he must know something if they're going after him. But like I think like me and probably a lot of other people who like aren't like, I'm not like a partisan Democrat, obviously I'm a libertarian, or just looking at this and like, this guy is a buffoon and he's bringing problems upon himself. And someone who is like that, who keeps stepping on his like own toes. Stepping on his own toes so many times. Like guy does not deserve to be president.
Look, that's fair enough. And honestly, on some level, he wasn't the president that he promised to be, and he certainly could have handled it. He could have maintained fiscal responsibility. He brought the country to the brink of the government missing like 3 payments on something. I'm not even sure what, and then backed right down and exploded the federal deficit when he did it. So it's like, okay, little disappointed about that. But he's kind of like gave this empty threat, that the worst threat out there. But the next time they try this, I'm really going to stand firm. And then he didn't. You know what I mean? He's just like, all right, well, I better let this one slide, and kind of. So there were things that he promised to do that he didn't do. He could have made a bigger deal. Like it. What I guess I want to move the conversation away from Trump directly and talk about this anti-establishmentarianism sentiment that's sweeping. And in a way, Kevin, I think it's sweeping the world. And I want to know how to capitalize on it. You know what I mean? Maybe. Like, should I just be a big, huge Trump fan and post pro-Trump tweets all day long? Like, would that monetize my Twitter account? That's what I need to know.
I mean, you were cheering for the Republicans to win. Did you change your registration, Tim? Or
oh my God, I don't remember that. I went full Republican on a tweet. Oh yeah, so that they would lock up the lying left wing. I forgot about that, but that was just like humor, right? Like, I'm just like saying, this is absurd. You guys, every single day they're talking about locking up Republicans, throwing Trump in jail, like every single day. And I mute periodically. I go through and mute a bunch of people that I've responded to, be they leftists or rightists or whatever, because that brings a whole new crop of people into your timeline.
Yeah.
And so, interestingly, the themes though don't really change. It's just the names on the themes that change. So, and the theme of locking Trump up is a big one.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, I hope red team wins and they lock all of you up for lying about the January 6th insurrection. I just thought that would be great. Like, let's work that out. But
no, I took it for the troll post that it was, but
yes, you played it well.
Yeah, so I want I do want just one more thing about like the whole Trump indictment thing. Then we'll talk about like the populism, anti-establishment wave, and capturing that. But the just like I do think it's bad if someone tries to cling the power, right? Which I think Trump did. I think he knew that like he didn't win the election. He tried to cling the power in doing it, and tried to convince people to commit fraud on his behalf to do that, like through implied statements or through direct statements. And this is kind of what the indictment lays out, and that's bad. I don't like people who want to cling to power. If Obama tried to do it, if Trump tried to do it, if any of the clowns that we put in the White House who don't deserve to be there tried to cling to power and didn't do so through the system of somewhat rigged laws, but laws that we have, that's bad, and we should not want to have those people anywhere near any position of authority. They need to be away from power. Like Trump is a power hungry guy. Again, you can think like people are wrong about that. He is a power hungry guy. That's what he is.
No, I agree with you. Absolutely. And look, so my defense of Trump, even though it can be passionate at times, I still recognize that he was not the guy that he promised to be. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and so I get it. I really do get it. And actually you do a really good job of like walking me back off that full Trump support ledge. You know what I mean? Because it's just like, I get really mad when I see what I see systems that look like they're being abused, and especially like we get into RICO cases and it's like, come on, man, like find something solid to charge them with, even if it's like petty and minor that you can really kind of.
It's a conspiracy, Tim. I thought you loved conspiracies.
I do love conspiracies, but the conspiracy
here's a conspiracy
that the justice system is being weaponized against Donald J. Trump, Kevin. I don't know. Like that one's a tough one to swallow, but also it does seem a little bit like, honestly, that was not a hard one to swallow because Democrats are also mind-numbingly power hungry, and as a party, I think they're more mind-numbingly power hungry than Trump. So I always am questioning left-leaning motives, like AOC all of a sudden going against the FDA so she can get a better sunscreen imported from South Korea. Like, I don't get that, man.
Well, people have selfish reasons for doing that. Like, if you want to, like, if you want to be against the war on drugs because you want to smoke pot, like, great, man. Like, cool. Like, that is your reason. Like, I don't want people to be in jail, but like, because you want to smoke pot, great. Go nuts. Like, I'm glad you're with us.
Yeah.
So we certainly see a bunch of those in the movement.
We do. Like the Republicans that smoke pot it's people that end up attracted to the Libertarian Party, and that's okay. Like that's okay with me anyway. We got people trying to stand at the gate of that though. And I don't know. Like, let them in. Not Joe Walsh, though. Don't let Joe Walsh in.
You want Joe Walsh? Come on.
Don't let Joe Walsh in. That guy's like an authoritarian psychopath. It would be like, he's almost as bad as Adam Kinzinger. And like, if Adam Kinzinger was to be like, hey, you know what? I want to be a libertarian and I want to run for office. I would be like, I don't care how much money you have in your war chest. I say no. You know what I mean? Like, I just would say no. You're a warmonger at heart.
Oh goodness! So by the way, we got a question. Speaking of the Libertarian Party, like y'all got to talk about the LNC leaks. Nope. No. Charleston guy. No, not yet. I haven't read through them, and I usually don't want to talk about LNC politics because it's a dumpster fire. It has been, and like I'm still registered libertarian, but like I don't want this to be a show about there's so many libertarian like party politic podcasts out there.
We do such a good job of self-reflecting at each other all the time. It's like, how about we do a little more outreach, guys? Like I get it.
Like other folks have it covered.
They do.
From any angle you want a Mises take on it. You can give me. You want a classical liberal take on it. You can find whatever take on it you want. Like again, it is no disrespect to you. Like it's
no, it's a great question and we appreciate it.
It's just we usually usually don't dive into. I know we've talked about like LP New Hampshire a couple times, but usually we don't.
Yeah, big fan. You hate them. It works out
Yeah.
great. It's another area of another bone of contention between Kevin and I.
So
And
just like and if you're like, what the heck are these guys talking about? Like, it's just you can look on Twitter.
Or don't.
Yeah, just don't. You just don't like. Yeah, the LP's fine. Don't even worry about the LP. It's fine.
Yeah, that's like so but there is a way to be involved in libertarian politics, and there's a way to be open-minded about the possibility that this anti-establishmentarianism could benefit, at the very least, independent libertarian-minded candidates. But like too many independents, Kevin, and I've oftentimes ranted about this on Twitter. Too many independents are simply just begging for scraps as long as they make sense to them, and it's like, you guys are kind of the problem. And this is with all due respect to liberty-leaning independents, but most of the independents out there are like ponytail guy from 1984 asking the government, like at one of the first town halls, like, what are you going to do for me? Like, what problems are you going to solve for me? And it's like, how about you go do something, pal? And like, I'll lower taxes so your life is easier. Like, is that fair? And I don't think most independents are looking for that. They're looking for the fine line of perfect policy that's going to solve something that traumatized them in their life. Does that make sense? I mean,
that is how a lot of people look at it. It's a lot of people, especially independents, are really like kind of single issue. They're focused on like their personal situation. And again, we talked about like the sunscreen thing with AOC. Like, people are really motivated by like the personal situations that they're in and what they want. And when either they see a barrier because the government is in the way of something that they want, or they see like, I'm not able to buy a house because of government policy, or because I don't have enough money, or like whatever, like, hey, government, fix this problem for me. And that's really what they're looking for.
I mean, that's why I became a libertarian. I realized that at no point in my life has the government ever solved a problem for me. They honestly, like, one of the early awakenings was kind of dealing with family court the first time I did. And I'm like, I don't think anybody's telling me the truth here. And it kind of turned out they weren't. You know what I mean? It's kind of like they're offering me shady arguments. And that felt very governmental. And then my first house, the government changed zoning in the middle of like me having my first house. I could kind of rent it out and be successful with that. And then it kind of became very challenging for me to rent it out and be less successful with that. So like, this anti-government stance, my libertarianism, is in fact like an extension of my life experiences,
Yeah, that's how a lot of people arrive at that place. It's like they had a personal experience, either, economic challenges or challenges with government bureaucracy or whatever, and that was like the defining moment that made them go further down whatever path they're going down. I mean, some folks are all over the place, but that's how it is.
That's one other piece I'd add, though, right? Like, there was a certain amount of cognitive dissonance when I'm like, am I supposed to be excited about sending kids over to Iraq when I'm not really sure what's going on here? Like, none of this made sense to me. Like, it didn't make sense. I wasn't really that familiar with Ron Paul, but at least when he came around, he said the right things and generated a little bit of excitement. And it was really uncomfortable to be like, all right, like, I want to be a conservative, but I also don't want children going over to a foreign country that they really haven't connected the dots for me. And then as time went on, they were unable to connect the dots like that they promised to connect. And they sacrificed blood and treasure, and they killed like 1 million people over there. And it's like, oh God, it's tough, it's tough to live with casting that vote for George Bush.
Yeah.
Junior. It was horrible. Like it's like bad. And look, I even like Bill Clinton, and he was like, gets in a little bit of trouble and he starts dropping bombs over Kosovo. Like, wait a minute. Is this not like, something about this seems really obvious, It was bad. It was bad.
I mean, so I voted for John McCain, so
oh wow.
So that was the first election I got to vote in. I threw my vote away on John McCain.
I may have voted for John McCain as well. I don't think I could quite vote for Mitt Romney, though. I want to be clear about that. I don't think
Mitt Romney is that breaking point. I was like,
it was just like,
there's got to be something else out there. And at that point, I was like a big Ron Paul fan in the
Sure.
2012 election, donated to that campaign and everything. And so because I was like very neoconish like until like I saw Ron Paul at CPAC actually,
Yeah.
and then the thing that got me was the war thing too. Is really like he talked about like how on earth does it make sense to grow the economy to take a bunch of our money, steal it, build tanks, send those tanks overseas and blow them up? How does that enrich us?
God.
And you know,
yet
that was the thing that got the wheels turning.
We find other ways to do it. It does it without tanks, like cars into the ocean. You know, like it's just kind of that's how we grow the economy all the time. And giving away our old military equipment and counting it as a plus in the GDP, and then counting it as a plus again when we replace that stuff is literally clown world, bro. Like that's not building wealth. That's not a society that's building wealth. That's a society that's diluting itself, that it's growing. Okay, they've made weird metrics. They're saying, hey, our economy's growing, so everybody's doing great. And it's like you're throwing wealth into the ocean and you're using it to kill people. Like, hold up a second. Like, arguably, I know it's hard to think of a tank as wealth, but the net wealth of a nation is things that it has.
Right.
Yeah,
well, I mean, if we're going to go down like a slight economics rabbit hole, right? Like it's the same thing as like the broken windows fallacy, right? Like, you can think of like wealth as like, okay, if a window gets broken, yes, we've invested money to build that window, and that is an investment. That new window is wealth. But where would that money have gone otherwise? What else could it have been used for to grow and help people prosper, and make sure that we have a successful and healthy life, something that's going to be lasting and meaningful and valuable as compared to a weapon of war which is particularly salient in the days of discussing Afghanistan and Iraq. But
right, there's so much room to have conversations about this. But the question is that what's waking people up, or is the fact that the system is so kind of busted? I guess that's part and parcel for it all. So like that.
Because we kind of circled around the populist argument here. Like it's because I don't know. Like I don't know that it's like any one particular thing, because it's so strange. Like because we talked about populism in the last show a little bit too. There's a lot of people, like a majority of people, like 70-something% of people think that like their personal situation is actually pretty good.
Right. But, and that's fair. Yeah.
But it's almost like the mirror image where like only like I need to find the stats on this. Like only like 20% of the people think that the economy overall is good. So they think everyone else is doing bad, but like the majority of people think that they're doing all right. Or at least they tell people in polls that they're doing all right. So like that kind of leads me to believe like, well, what are people mad because of their own situations? And for that 30%, sure. Like if you're struggling, you're having a bad time, like, yeah, like of course you're going to be mad, and you're going to look for like, you're going to blame the people who are in power right now, which we've talked about how I think it's a little bit shaky. Is it can go any direction when you blame the people who are in power. We talked about that with Argentina too. Like,
right. Absolutely.
You're mad at the people in power. Do you go the communist route, the fascist route, the libertarian route? Like, where do you go?
Let's try fascism for a couple of years. I mean, let's try communism for a couple of years, and it's a disaster, right? Like, anything that talks about sound economic policy and gets people to understand that the government runs on the broken window fallacy makes me happy. And I go to like, the systems are incompetent, but we have people like driving narratives every day. AOC is regularly driving a narrative, not a positive one, about better access to good sunscreen, like, which is arguably a nice place to start. Like, it's something, right? But we're driving narratives of inequity and unfairness, and people are very angry. And I'm wondering if 70% of us are feeling like things are good, then what good is that narrative? And isn't it just manipulation? And I don't know, like, I know that I don't want poor people to be punished with higher taxes. I don't want poor people to be punished with inflationary theft. And I don't want them to be punished by a police state that collects money from them for very minor infractions. So, like, those are things that I don't want. That makes me feel like my libertarianism is beneficial to people that don't necessarily have as much as me, which sometimes I don't feel like I got a lot either. I work pretty hard, and all of a sudden I'm up against it again. You know what I mean? Like, I get that feeling.
Yeah.
Not feeling, it's a reality, you know? Like, it's not just a feeling. There's
Yeah.
constant struggles in life.
Yeah, no. So I don't know what to do about like any of the feelings that like people are having. How does that like advance my ideology? Which is, I don't know, maybe it's a selfish way to think about that too. But like, you know, I want to like I think you and I both genuinely want to help people, right? Like we see the
Sure.
struggles that people do legitimately have, and you think like, okay, I know that a lot of those struggles are rooted in bad policy, even if they can't see like the direct consequences of that. And so like we should want to fix that. And I'm kind of caught with like that. There's some folks who will do that though, and we acknowledge it. And I said this last time too. It's like they start to get this mindset of, well, I can't do anything because of bad policy. You've enlightened them on like, hey, bad policy makes your life more difficult. And they're like, that's why I can't succeed. So I'm not going to try for that new job because bad policy is going to keep me down anyway. It sounds like I'm being like patronizing here, but I've literally talked to people who've said this to me. Like,
Right.
if Larry Sharpe gets elected, like then I'll like start making money. And I'm like, bro, you can't wait for Larry to get elected. I'm sorry. Like,
Right.
you've got to go like fight for yourself right now. Like Larry will fix a lot of things, but like you've got to do your best, like in the situation you have. So don't let that be your excuse either. But also recognizing that bad policy hurts people, like including this individual that I was talking to.
Yeah. Better policy would make things better for sure. And so it's weird, right? Like we get into this. Are libertarians motivated solely by self-interest? And you and I both kind of said, like, we are kind of. I said anyway. You didn't really like. Said I am somewhat libertarian because I'm responding to cognitive dissonance that hit me in life, like advocating for a war that turned out to be disgusting, or even only partially advocating for it, even if I was a doubter, or sort of like, hey, I'm not as excited about the war as the rest of you guys, like, but still, okay, I get it. We've got to kind of protect the homeland. It sounded weird to me to say those things, but also I got it, like I can catch both sides of the coin when it comes to that stuff,
Maybe. I said, I don't know, like maybe there's some self-interest stuff in there. The story I tell myself about why I changed the way I did was the war. It was the policy, like the being against gay marriage thing, where I started to have like friends who like turned out to be gay, and like, oh, they seem fine. I want to. Why would they seem like they want to get married? They want to do the same things I want to do. Why would I have the government prevent them from doing that? That seems.
I worked in restaurants for decades, man, and like this is maybe stereotyping, but I knew lots of gay people, and if they wanted to be gay and get married, like, why would I care? Why would that bother me?
Yeah. And then same thing with like drug use. Like for a while, I was like, yeah, every drug user should be thrown in jail. We should do what like I was really extreme on like and like drug dealers should like get the capital punishment, like what Saint, like I was extreme on this stuff. And then like, I started to meet people like who were like, they would smoke pot and they would do like some other, and they were fine. And like people do develop legitimate problems around this stuff, but I was like, do I really want to, would I want to see this person that I maybe work with or is a family member of mine or like whatever, would I really want to see them thrown in a cage over that? Would I really want to see like sometimes friends of mine who used to sell, like, would I want to see them executed for that? Like, is that a policy? I'm really like, that is monstrous when you start to like connect it to real life people that and like their actual impact on like themselves and the people around them. Like, no, like at best, they should, at most, they should really like get help in some situations, but definitely shouldn't be throwing them in a cage. Is have the empathy for other people of like, wait, like what are the real human visceral consequences to the people around me if this policy were to actually happen?
Yeah, that's funny because you know what you're reminding me of right now is that show I did with Shane Hazel, who basically credited, like he was like a Marine recon, which is like Navy SEALs kind of deal, like kicking down doors in Fallujah and stuff like that, like real legit hardcore military dude who said like once he got out of the military, he smoked a little pot and he stopped hating people. Like for him, he developed that empathy bone at some point where it was just like, now I've got to be a libertarian because like this this thing, this conservative thing, this angry thing, and guys, I apologize. Conservative thing is not fair. A lot of people kind of get caught up in this deal of, hey, we've got to punish criminals, and hey, that criminal, like how Kevin just broke it down about knowing somebody that maybe sold drugs. Would you want them executed? Would you want them to spend? People who sell a little bit of weed used to end up in jail. Like those are things that are real that our society is guilty of, and it's weird that the empathy thing came into play right now in this conversation. Yeah. Not that weird, but it makes sense.
Not weird. Like looping back to like the populist thing. Like, yeah, I want to be empathetic to people who are like having trouble, and that's because a lot of times that's where like populism ends up like emerging, is people who like feel that something isn't right, and like their only impulse right now is they feel like, well, we need to change up top somewhere. Right. And so like, I know you want to capture this. I don't know how to do it, but like, you want to feel like, okay, how do we capture that energy in a positive way, in a way that is not going to end up really bad? Because it could go that direction.
Sure. Yes. Anti-establishmentarianism and populism is guys, it's like an element of fascism, and it always has been, right? Like fascism capitalizes on a populist notion, turns it into hate, scapegoats somebody. And I can see both sides of the political spectrum playing this game, like both sides. Like there's not really both sides. There's populist arguments on people that basically agree that the system should exist in the form that it exists, and that's in fact the problem, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
One of the many problems.
Yeah,
that's a problem. Well, one of the many problems. That's a Douglas Adams line. If you ever go through he's always saying, well, one problem. Well, one of the many problems. And then he kind of tells a joke. He was a really good writer.
Yeah, Douglas Adams, awesome. All right, so we should probably wrap it up though. We've been going for an hour and a half now.
Nice.
Do I acknowledge this comment from Sam? It says, best advice Kevin gave me personally is to focus on local LP. Thank you, Kevin, for saving me from LP burnout. Yeah, I just like quick. So like I remember when I was working for the Gary Johnson campaign, like I would have activists like in my region who'd be like, man, I'm just so tired from like working this campaign. I was like, well, what are you doing? Like, well, I'm defending Gary Johnson in the comment sections. I'm like, no,
don't do it.
Stop. Like, who are you defending them from? Oh, other libertarians. Okay, like stop. Like I get like it's not
libertarians.
Yeah, like literally, and I'm like,
forever.
And again, these people were great, but they would get burned out in this stuff. And they'd get obsessed with some of these arguments. And it's not that like fully dismissed the importance, like the National Party, like I do want it to be like functional and great, but like
it's successful.
It's successful,
we want success,
like,
sure.
But also like if it's burning you out, like, and you think that you can redirect that, you still have like the passion and the energy to go make a difference elsewhere. Like, please go do that. Don't let yourself get consumed by that stuff. Again, not dismissing the importance of what's happening there. Just if you feel like you're losing your spark because of that, shut it off for a while. Like go do something useful.
Go touch grass, you stupid nerd.
There you go. That's what we say to our fans. There you go. There's your message from Tim to Sam. Touch grass.
Yeah. No, I wasn't saying that to Sam. Sam says Sam's got it.
Sam's figured it out.
Yeah, Sam's got it under control.
That's why, like, because I know again, well-meaning folks. Are you going to weigh in on this stuff? Like, yeah, I look at it. I kind of see what it is, but like, I feel myself getting like burned out, and angry, and I don't want to like pay attention to like anything at all when I start reading this stuff. And again, that's not great. That's like a me problem, and I know well-meaning folks want to like fix it like across the spectrum, but
sure. Speaking of the spectrum, I still haven't got to do that. I still haven't got to do that whole autism article, bro. Like there was a lady. Never mind. We gotta save that for another time.
Yeah, goodness. All right. Thanks again, folks, for joining us through our interesting libertarian populist rant here that's gone on for a while. But have a great night, folks. Thanks for joining us for this bonus show. Take care.